November 2008 marked the beginning of another hunting season in the rugged terrain of the Blue Ridge Mountains. For 43-year-old Leonard Walsh, this meant packing his weathered Chevrolet pickup and heading into the wilderness he had known since childhood. A welder by trade at Henderson's Auto Body Shop in the modest mountain community of Bryson City, Leonard had maintained this autumn ritual for nearly 2 decades. His wife Patricia understood these excursions as essential to her husband's nature, a yearly communion with the forests that defined their region. Leonard's preparations followed a familiar pattern. He gathered provisions for several days, preserved foods, a flask of hot coffee, his trusted Winchester rifle, and camping equipment adequate for the dropping temperatures. Patricia assisted with loading the vehicle, noting her husband's cheerful disposition as he anticipated the days ahead. Their children, both having established lives in distant cities, would not join this particular expedition. The plan was straightforward. Leonard would return by the weekend of November 9th, refreshed from his solitary time in the mountains. Before departing, Leonard stopped at Henderson's shop to inform his employer, Gregory Mason, of his planned absence through the following Monday. Mason, familiar with his employee's annual tradition, readily approved the time away. Around midday, Leonard visited Bartlett's Sporting Goods, where clerk Timothy Brooks later remembered serving a customer who appeared relaxed and made light-hearted comments about escaping urban commotion. After this final errand, Leonard began his journey into the mountains, following the familiar route along Route 19 before transitioning to the serpentine mountain roads leading toward the Cherokee National Forest. Patricia knew her husband's preferred camping location, a remote clearing accessible by an old logging road in the forest's eastern sector. When Friday evening arrived without contact, Patricia felt no alarm. Her husband often remained overnight in favorable conditions. Saturday's silence similarly caused no concern, but Sunday's passage without Leonard's return or communication sparked worry. Leonard had dismissed mobile phones as impractical for these expeditions, citing unreliable service in the mountains. By Monday morning, November 10th, Patricia contacted the Swain County Sheriff's Department. The duty officer documented her report and assured her that a search operation would commence that afternoon. She provided detailed information. Leonard stood approximately 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighed around 175 pounds, possessed graying auburn hair and hazel eyes, and wore an orange hunting vest, denim trousers, and tan hiking boots when last seen. The initial search team located Leonard's pickup within hours. The burgundy 1989 Chevrolet sat precisely where anticipated, at the terminus of a logging road within a small clearing. The vehicle was secured, with keys resting on the driver's seat. All of Leonard's equipment remained untouched in the truck bed. His sleeping bag, backpack containing provisions, thermos, and remarkably, his Winchester rifle with a complete ammunition supply. Sergeant William Foster, directing the search operation, immediately recognized the anomaly. No experienced hunter would venture into wilderness without his firearm. Furthermore, the untouched backpack and camping gear suggested Leonard had simply exited the vehicle and vanished without retrieving anything necessary for hunting or overnight wilderness survival. The search party comprised 8 individuals, 4 officers, and 4 volunteers from the regional rescue organization. They systematically examined the forest within a mile radius of the vehicle, progressing in expanding circles while inspecting every path and depression. Weather conditions were favorable, with clear skies and temperatures near 55 degrees Fahrenheit. By Monday evening, the search had produced no results. Tuesday brought 12 additional volunteers, including Leonard's neighbors and colleagues from Henderson's shop. The search radius expanded to 2 miles. Wednesday introduced canine tracking units from a neighboring county. 2 trained Belgian Malinois dogs detected a trail from Leonard's vehicle, but lost it after approximately 300 yards. The scent simply terminated, as though Leonard had evaporated. By the first week's conclusion, over 30 individuals participated in the search. Patricia attended the search site daily, awaiting developments. She repeatedly emphasized that her husband possessed intimate knowledge of these forests and could not have become disoriented. During the second week, a National Guard helicopter joined the operation with thermal imaging equipment. The aerial search proved unsuccessful. After 3 weeks of intensive searching in early December, the sheriff formally suspended operations. Initial snowfall covered the ground, rendering further searches essentially futile. Leonard Walsh's disappearance case was classified as unresolved. Patricia Walsh could not accept her husband's disappearance. After the official search concluded, she continued regular forest visits, hoping to discover any evidence. Each weekend, she positioned her vehicle near where Leonard's pickup was found, and walked the trails for hours, meticulously examining vegetation and rock formations. The winter of 2008 to 2009 proved severe. Snow blanketed the mountains until late March. But as spring thaw commenced, Patricia resumed her efforts. She created a comprehensive map of all previously searched locations and methodically examined areas the official teams might have overlooked. Autumn 2009 marked exactly 1 year since Leonard's disappearance. A local resident named Howard Brennan contacted the sheriff's department, reporting a peculiar discovery during hunting. He had encountered an area where vegetation grew noticeably greener than surrounding terrain. Deputy Foster investigated and found a suspicious area. At approximately 3 feet depth, they uncovered a large flat stone, obviously placed artificially. Beneath the stone lay a cavity, but it contained only small animal bones and old tin containers. Patricia experienced profound disappointment. By 2010, interest in Leonard Walsh's case had essentially evaporated. Patricia continued her search, though less regularly. She employed a private investigator from Knoxville, but after 1 month of work, he identified no new leads. The detective suggested Leonard might have deliberately disappeared to start a new life. Patricia categorically rejected this theory. In 2011, Patricia relocated to Tennessee to live with her daughter. She sold their Bryson City home and directed some proceeds toward private investigators. Before departing, she visited the site of her husband's disappearance one final time. Spring 2012 brought an unexpected development. Forest workers clearing fallen timber discovered a human skull several miles from Leonard's disappearance site. Patricia immediately flew from Tennessee upon hearing this news. The examination revealed the skull had been underground for 4 to 6 years, coinciding with Leonard's disappearance timeframe. However, definitive identification proved impossible. Meanwhile, leadership changed at the sheriff's department. The new sheriff, Anthony Harris, decided to review all unresolved cases from the previous decade. Leonard Walsh's case emerged as one of the most puzzling. Harris instructed Detective Laura Phillips to re-interview all witnesses and acquaintances of Leonard. During these interviews, some intriguing details surfaced. Several neighbors mentioned that Leonard had experienced conflict with another local resident, Vincent Lawson, who lived several miles from Walsh. The dispute concerned property boundaries. Lawson claimed Leonard had illegally erected a fence and enclosed part of Lawson's land. The disagreement had persisted for several years and had even reached court, but the case remained unresolved. Witnesses reported that the men had argued heatedly multiple times and once nearly came to physical confrontation. Detective Phillips decided to speak with Vincent Lawson. He resided in an old farmhouse at the forest edge, approximately 12 miles from where Leonard disappeared. Lawson was 55 years old, worked as a construction contractor, and lived alone following his divorce. Neighbors described him as reclusive and temperamental. When Phillips arrived at Lawson's residence, he appeared agitated. When asked about his whereabouts on the day Leonard disappeared, Lawson replied that he couldn't remember. He acknowledged hearing about his neighbor's disappearance, but had never participated in search efforts because he and Leonard weren't on good terms. Phillips noted that Lawson corrected his testimony several times, as though attempting to recall a rehearsed version. It seemed particularly suspicious that Lawson first stated he was working in his workshop on Leonard's disappearance day, then claimed he had visited relatives in a neighboring town. The detective recorded all contradictions, but at that point, insufficient evidence existed for official charges. 2 years later, in spring 2014, an event occurred that completely transformed the investigation. A group of teenagers from a local school decided to explore abandoned buildings in the forest for a school project about regional history. Among them were 17-year-old Kyle Anderson, his younger brother Nathan, and their friend Ryan Harper. One farm stood approximately 1 mile from where the skull was discovered. The farm had belonged to the Peterson family, who grew corn and maintained a small cattle herd. After old Peterson's death in 1961, his children sold the land to the forestry department, leaving the buildings abandoned. By 2014, all that remained were stone foundations, a collapsed barn, and an old well. The well stood apart from the main structures in a small grove, constructed with stone and descending approximately 20 feet. Someone had positioned a heavy concrete slab over it, completely covering the opening. Kyle Anderson first noticed that the slab appeared relatively new compared to the old moss-covered well stones. The boys attempted to move the slab to look inside, but it proved too heavy. They retrieved an old metal pipe and used it as a lever. After 30 minutes of effort, they managed to shift the slab several inches. Kyle shone his flashlight through the formed gap and saw something white at the well's bottom. Closer inspection revealed he was looking at human bones. The boys immediately ceased their efforts and drove to town to report their discovery. Detective Phillips arrived at the abandoned farm 40 minutes later, accompanied by a technical team They cordoned the area and began photographing the site from all angles. Special equipment was summoned to lift the slab. Beneath it, they found a complete human skeleton lying at the well's bottom. The bones were partially covered with fallen leaves and soil. Forensic expert Dr. Nathan Rodriguez descended into the well on safety ropes. The first thing he noticed was that the skeleton's hands were bound behind its back with rope remains. The legs were also tied at the ankles. This immediately eliminated the possibility of accident and indicated foul play. The skull displayed 2 large holes. In the chest area, he found several cuts on the ribs, which could have been knife wounds. A leather wallet was found in the jeans pocket. Detective Phillips immediately contacted Patricia Walsh in Tennessee and reported the discovery. The woman arrived in Bryson City the next day with her husband's medical records and DNA samples. Examination of the wallet revealed it belonged to Leonard Walsh. Dental examination confirmed the assumptions. DNA analysis conducted at the state laboratory finally confirmed the deceased's identity. Now the investigation was no longer a missing person case, but a murder investigation. Sheriff Harris personally took control and appointed Detective Phillips to lead the case. Forensic examination showed Leonard died from multiple stab wounds to the chest and abdomen. 8 wounds were found, 4 of which damaged vital organs. The head blows were inflicted with a blunt object. The murder clearly did not occur in the well. Leonard was killed somewhere else, then his body was transported to the well. A concrete slab was placed on top to conceal the crime. Special attention focused on Vincent Lawson. His farm was only 2 miles from where Leonard's body was found. He owned a truck with a crane which he used for work. Such a crane could easily lift and install a concrete slab on a well. When Detective Phillips visited Lawson again, he became even more agitated. Phillips requested permission to search Lawson's house and workshop. Lawson agreed, but his nervousness was evident. In the workshop, the detective found several concrete slabs of exactly the same size and shape as the one covering the well. The most interesting discovery was the house attic. In the corner, under a pile of old blankets, Phillips found an orange hunting vest. The vest was the same size and style as the one Leonard Walsh wore on his disappearance day. Lawson claimed the vest belonged to him, but Phillips noticed dark stains on the vest that resembled dried blood. She seized the vest for examination and also took DNA samples from Lawson. The examination of the blood on the vest yielded sensational results. DNA analysis showed the stains belonged to Leonard Walsh. This was direct evidence connecting the vest to the murder. When Phillips presented Lawson with the examination results, he initially claimed the vest wasn't his. Then he said he might have bought it secondhand, but couldn't explain how Leonard's blood got on it. The detective obtained a warrant for Vincent Lawson's arrest. The arrest occurred early morning on April 18, 2014. Lawson was detained at his home without resistance. Lawson spent 3 days in detention, refusing to provide a statement. His attorney argued that all evidence was circumstantial. The breakthrough came when investigators conducted another detailed examination of Lawson's workshop. Using luminol, experts discovered a large stain on the workshop floor that had been thoroughly cleaned, but blood traces remained in the board cracks. Analysis showed a match with Leonard Walsh's DNA. This meant the murder had occurred in Lawson's workshop. A knife with an elk antler handle was also found in the workshop, with microscopic blood traces and bone fragments on the blade, matching the wounds on Leonard's skeleton. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Vincent Lawson agreed to testify. On April 21, 2014, in the presence of his attorney and Detective Phillips, he recounted how Leonard Walsh's murder occurred. Lawson described how on that November afternoon in 2008, he had encountered Leonard on a forest road near his property. The old property dispute reignited, and the argument escalated beyond control. In a fit of rage, Lawson struck Leonard with a tire iron he kept in his truck. He then forced the injured man into his vehicle and drove him to his workshop. There, in a moment of uncontrollable fury fueled by years of accumulated resentment, he stabbed Leonard multiple times. Realizing what he had done, Lawson panicked and decided to hide the body. He remembered the old Peterson farm and the abandoned well. Using his truck's crane, he transported a concrete slab there and sealed Leonard's body inside. Vincent Lawson was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Patricia Walsh finally received closure, though the pain of her loss would never fully heal. The case stood as a reminder of how disputes could escalate into tragedy and how persistence could ultimately bring justice, even after years of uncertainty.